Your college football game day has come early.
Goes down the field for Sicky, goes up high. He's got get away from the top speed, and the ball is free. Woo! What a hit! You got barbecue back there.
From underdog triumphs to powerhouse showdowns, we've got your winning playbook covered. It's BetQLU with Chris Mack, RJ Choppy, and John Martin, presented by BetMGM.
And welcome in. I can't believe it happened, but they screwed him. Oh, they screwed him so good. We're going to talk about Florida State being left out. We're going to talk about Alabama getting in. We're going to talk about the CFP Final Four and those two big games, Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. Maybe even throw some bowl game thoughts your way briefly. And it's a big one. If you love America, you love Army, Navy this weekend as well. We'll touch on that, get you our best bets. Final touch on the Heisman race as well, which looks like it's probably over. Well, we know the race itself is over. All the votes are in. They've been tallied. Now we just wait for the ceremony on Saturday night. And we'll even start to take a look at the college hoops season as we're transitioning into bowl season in football alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. Hi, I'm Chris Mack, and this is BetQLU. We are with you every Thursday night on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel. And of course, Friday nights at 11, Saturday mornings at 9 on the BetQL network, live coast to coast inside your Odyssey app, AUDACY. It's free. Download it today and take us with you wherever you are going. I can't believe it. And I'll let RJ gloat just a little bit. You know, we celebrate our friend RJ Choppy even when he doesn't get things right. We tell him he's gotten things right because it boosts his self-esteem, and we like to see that beautiful smile. Yes. But in this case, RJ didn't pretend to get something right. RJ did get something right. He called it. He called it. I said last week, I said, there's no way they leave an undefeated Power 5 champ out of the college football playoff. What kind of world is that we're living in if they do that? Where up is down and left and right is black and white and cats and dogs are living together? No, RJ Choppy, he called it. Florida State, 13-0, ACC champs. Granted, they win that last game with a backup quarterback. Not good enough. Not good enough. They're held out of the college football playoff. Choppy, here are your flowers. I will sprinkle the petals at your feet. Go ahead, gloat. Tell us why you knew this was going to happen all along.
Oh, man. I take no pleasure in this. That's a lie. I'm an elitist SEC guy. So it's completely garbage. Listen, it feels dirty. It felt dirty. I'm not going to lie. It feels dirty, but they got it absolutely right. I thought it was going to happen for one main reason. It is a different team. They're not losing a left tackle. They're not losing a wide receiver. They're losing a Heisman candidate quarterback. If you go and you look in the NFL or other sport, the NFL, the quarterback's expected points added is like more than all the other 52 guys in the field combined. You can't lose a QB and remotely be the same team. And I think what everybody is missing is that, well, it's deserved. They earned it. And I'm not discounting that, but this is a subjective selection show where you have 5 conference champions and 4 slots. This is not about the most deserving. This has always been about the committee can't facilitate a massacre on national TV. And this is about finding the best 4 teams, whether or not and nobody thinks that Florida State was one of the best 4 at this point. Now they were, and I'll tell you this, if their quarterback played like the SMU kid did against Tulane in a backup role, I think they're in. I think if they win this game by, they score 30 points and they win the game, and I think they're in. I think if they showed that, they would have been in. Cardale Jones put up 59 points against Wisconsin. They had 2 opportunities to show that there was very little difference, or that they were still a competitive team that could actually win this thing. And the moment they didn't show that, the committee had no choice.
John, it makes some sense to this for me because I look at it and I see a world where there were 3 undefeated conference champs and then 2 one-loss conference champs. So all you had to do was take your 3 undefeated teams and then take one of those 2 one-loss champs, which would have been Texas over Bama because, well, Texas beat Bama. And in my opinion, results on the field still matter. I don't think you can project. You can take a good guess, right? You can look at it and say, okay, Florida State probably with the backup quarterback would have lost to Michigan, but we don't know that for sure. That's why the games get played. Otherwise, let's just take the preseason rankings come early September and have the committee name the 4 teams then. Like, if this, in essence, tells me subjectivity is greater than objectivity, and it won't matter as much next year when we get to arguing about team 10, 11, 12, and 13 in the field. But this tells me that it'll be more important to take a team that looks good in the moment or looks better in the moment than a team that may not look as good in the moment but has better results.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it can be explained away with 3 letters. And it's SEC. It's really that simple. Alabama winning the SEC championship game got Texas in, excuse me. If Georgia had won, in my opinion, I think they do end up leaving Texas out because then it's just really easy. You have 4 undefeated conference champions, right? I mean, I don't think anybody could really cry foul there, because even though we say it's 4 best teams, like these ain't the 4 best teams. Okay. Washington ain't one of the 4 best teams. They won the Pac-12 that had a better year than anybody ever expected, but they ain't better than Georgia. Does anybody on this panel think Washington's better than Georgia? No, they don't.
No.
Because we have eyeballs and we have brains. So it's still not the 4 best teams. With that being said, you're not leaving the SEC champion out of the 14 playoff if they have 1 loss. You're just not doing it. So Alabama winning the SEC title game is why Texas is in the playoff. Make no mistake about it. But I also I'm not an elitist like RJ, but I live in Memphis, which means I'm in the heart of SEC country here with Ole Miss and Tennessee and Arkansas. I'm right in the middle of it. Like, it is the best, conference in football, and it has been for a long, long time. And I think when you're the SEC champion, as long as you don't have 2 or 3 losses, you deserve a seat at that table. And there is no question in my mind, Alabama could win this thing. Alabama could win the whole thing, and Georgia could have won the whole thing. And I think when you sit down and you sort of handicap that, there's no question about it. And it does stink for Florida State, but Alabama is 2 or 3 times the team they are with no Jordan Travis. And so I think at that point, the decision became pretty easy.
Let me ask you guys this, because I believe in the subjectivity of it, and I understand it's a made-for-TV product. All of this is, right? They want to get the most eyeballs on the screens. They want to have as many butts on couches on Monday, January 1st, between 5 p.m. and midnight as they can get. And I totally understand that. But that being said, wouldn't it have made a great storyline? Might not have been as good a game, but a great storyline for 2.5, 3 weeks to have America rallying around Florida State and one of their backup quarterbacks against Michigan, the cheaters. Like, that would have been a storyline that you could have supercharged for 2.5 weeks. Oh my God, look at these guys, the sign stealers. Oh, they're only here for the 3rd year in a row because they've been cooking everything. And, well, look at Florida State was a good team, but they got their backup. That would have been a great storyline for me anyway, being a Michigan hater. And I think most people around the country who are college football fans kind of cast a side eye at Michigan these days. That would have been your storyline, right? Like, yeah, you would have left Bama out. You got a great story now as it is, right? Anytime Nick Saban and Alabama's involved, that's wonderful. Yes. We get to watch Nick Saban trot out onto the turf at the Rose Bowl and do whatever he's going to do to Michigan, which we can get to in a couple minutes. But I just think if you're talking about keeping eyes glued to a television screen, I would have been okay with everything leading up to the game if it were Michigan, Florida State. Now, would the thing have been over 15 minutes in? Maybe, but Choppy, I think that still would have been fun to watch for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, it would have been fun for the 2 weeks. The unfortunate thing is that the ESPN and ABC don't get ratings for the 2.5 weeks. They only get ratings for the 3.5 to 4.5 hours that the game is on. So, I mean, it is, and that's the thing. Like, I don't think people want to admit that it is a made for TV event. And the moment you accept that, I think it's easier to take that they made the right decision from a made for TV event. And I think they prove results do matter, because the results of the 2 games with the backup quarterbacks, to them, prove that they weren't ready for that stage. They weren't able to compete. I just, you can't, from their perspective, and I get it, and I agree with it. You don't want to put somebody in who you don't think has a chance to win the championship. And there is no objectivity here when it's a selection, a subjective selection of a dozen or so people in a room in Grapevine, Texas, just hanging out, watching games. I mean, it's obviously a subjective ranking.
So we've got our top 4. They're set. We're going to dive into these 2 games in just a couple of minutes. Michigan, Bama in the Rose Bowl, as I mentioned, and then Washington, Texas in the Sugar Bowl in the nightcap, both of those games on New Year's Day. We will have an expanded edition in a couple of weeks of BetQLU to preview as many of the bowl games as possible in our 2-hour expanded BetQLU Bowl extravaganza the week leading up to Christmas. And as I mentioned, we'll start to dive into hoops before the end of the show as well and touch on the Heisman real quick also. But real quick, there's one game. This is the week. It's the standalone week for the Army-Navy game. Army laying 3 against Navy. First time they've ever played this one in Foxborough, guys. Typically in Philly or a couple times down in D.C. I think it's been played in Jersey maybe once or twice as well. Army laying 3 against Navy. The total, anywhere from 27.5 to 28.5. Choppy, I don't know if you have a handicap on this one. The way I look at it, it's Army, it's Navy, it's service academies. It's probably going to be low scoring. Both offenses driven by the run game. It's more about which defense can actually put up some resistance to said run game.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm not going to be all over betting this game, but I'll tell you this: they are approaching Kansas territory, where you can't get with Kansas a couple years back. You couldn't make the spread big enough, and with this, you can't make the total low enough. You just can't do it. The weather's usually bad in Boston this time of year. It's going to be a muck it up, slow it up type game. So I would probably play the under, but I have no feel on this. This is not a game I enjoy betting. I love betting unders because I'm a miserable human, and I love betting the under. But I try to stay away from this one.
What kind of American are you, Choppy? Come on, bet on Army Navy like the rest of us.
All right, fine, whatever. I'll take the under.
I knew you could be peer pressured into it, John.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pretend here. I mean, I obviously, as an American, I owe a great debt to Army and to Navy for protecting our freedoms, but I do not owe them my viewership when they're playing football.
Oh no!
And look, I mean, this is an AC. Well, they're both members of the AAC, but this would technically weirdly not be an AAC game. I don't know how they get to figuring that out, but it's still going to exist outside of conference standing. So good luck, figuring out that Rubik's Cube. Navy sucks. I mean, they just do. I mean, I'm
much better.
How do you really feel?
They're not, but Navy really is. I will say they kept up with Memphis in the third or fourth week of the season. I was on them then, but that was when they were getting 14.5 or something crazy like that. I mean, I can't. Yeah. I mean, I think the number for me is probably gone at 3. I mean, good God, but I think Army probably wins this game. Past that, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But I don't want to watch
America
this.
And Godspeed. 4 out of the last 6 have gone under that total as it sits right now, anywhere between 28.5 and 29.5. And like you said, John, 3 in this game is like 7.5 in any other college football game.
It's to me, it's a little bit like, Pat Steelers, right? That's 6, which might as well be, 2 touchdowns. So it's, I don't. I think, if you wanted to, I might do like a same game, parlay there. I'm not always a huge proponent of those, but I would probably
America,
go like,
John. Do it for America.
Yeah, Army money line and under. There you go. I think you're going to get home.
This game's got a built-in teaser to it.
I love it.
Yep, can do that too.
Army Navy, the standalone game this weekend for college football fans. What about those college football playoff semifinals, though? Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl. We preview those. Any other bowl game matchups that we like, given the rash of opt-outs that happen this time of year? Final thoughts on the Heisman Trophy as well, and we touch on college hoops as we push through the latest edition alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy. I'm Chris Mack right here on BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Odyssey Sports YouTube channel Friday night or Saturday morning at some point on the BetQL network, or any other time once it's available as a podcast inside your Odyssey app. It's free. Download it today, AUDACY, or however you get your podcast. We appreciate you joining us here on BetQLU alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack, and before we wrap up our best bets of the weekend with only one college football game on the slate, I'll be honest, it probably won't be a college football game from each of us. We will talk college hoops in just a couple of minutes, and a final thought on the Heisman race as well before we wrap things up. But we've got to talk college football semifinals, an early look at these two games in just a moment. But college football bowl pick'em, the BetMGM College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge, live right now inside your BetMGM app. If you are an existing BetMGM customer, it's your chance to win a grand prize of up to $25,000 if you predict the most college football bowl games against the spread correctly out of all users involved. Just go into your BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Go to the promo tab and then access the Bowl Pick'em Challenge. From there, complete and submit your Bowl Pick'em Challenge entry. Just one per customer permitted. And you don't need to make the selections all at once. You can make selections on games up until kickoff for each of them, but then you'll be entered for that opportunity to win up to $25,000 inside your BetMGM app today. All right, first game on New Year's Day, guys, will be the Rose Bowl. Well, not the first game on New Year's Day, the first semifinal on New Year's Day. 5 East, 2 Pacific kickoff for the Rose Bowl. Michigan against Bama. Michigan laying 1.5 right now. Minus 115 on the money line. Bama minus 105 on the money line. Total sits at 45.5. Jalen Milroe has scored 17 touchdowns over the last 5 games, including the SEC title game. 10 with his arm, 7 with his legs. That might make him just a little bit better than J.J. McCarthy, who's only thrown for 250 through the air twice against Power 5 teams this season. Once against Purdue, the worst pass defense in the Big Ten, and another time against Michigan State, the third worst pass defense in the Big Ten. So, John, tell me why, even with the public all over, maybe the public knows something here, an early look on this game does not involve favoring Nick Saban to put the game in J.J. McCarthy's lap when he's got 3 weeks to prepare for it. Is there any reason we shouldn't be looking Bama or leaning Bama right now?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I realize that is sort of the, I guess you would say the definition of square.
This was the most fascinating one of the entire run of the 14 playoff, which is going away after this year and going to expand to 12, because they had 5 to 6 legitimate teams that had a case.
A little bit more than they win. And that's why the books are in business here. But there is nothing about this that compels me to take Michigan. I don't think they've seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. I don't think they've seen athletes like they're going to see with Alabama. I mean, I think the Big Ten is so bad in terms of just talent. I mean, every team is kind of constructed the same way, right? There's not really very good quarterback play. You have really good trench play. But once you get outside of that, it's really hit or miss. I mean, the best we can do this year to contest Michigan is Ohio State, and they just kick their quarterback to the curb like Jazzy Jeff. I think this is going to be a wake-up call for Michigan. It's a different beast when you're taking on an SEC team with the ability to run too, like Jalen Milroe. Who have they seen in the Big Ten that can do what Milroe does? I don't think anybody. So
Nobody.
I think this is a Cousin Willie biblical baptism. Okay, Michigan is going to meet God on New Year's Day.
I love it. Oh man. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, they have not faced a quarterback that can move. They haven't. They're look. Michigan's a really good team. But no,
maybe Tagovailoa a little bit, right? Like maybe Tagovailoa is like a watered down poor man's version of something closely resembling a bad copy, like the old gas station copy machines. You used to put a quarter in to make a copy for. Like, you make a copy of Jalen Milroe at that copy machine, and then water it down and distill it and copy it again, and maybe you get Talia Tungavailoa.
And they struggled with that, didn't they not?
Yes,
They struggled.
Yes,
So
mightily.
it's yes. I mean, and Alabama is far more talented at just about every position. So this is a look. You're going to give me one of two things. I'm either getting points or I'm getting plus money.
Yeah.
I mean, I got this game. I took Bama money line at plus 110. A couple days ago. I got plus money on a money line here for Alabama against a team that I don't think they have any idea what they're matching up against. Michigan they're not quite Notre Dame where they've never shown up in these games, but they ain't far away. I mean, they did play well against TCU last year, but prior to that, they didn't necessarily show up in a lot of these games. So, man, I think this is going to be quite the performance Bama's going to put on.
One more interesting thought, and again, it is early. We got weeks to talk about these games, but again, full disclosure: everybody who listens or watches knows BetQL. We do it Thursday, late Thursday afternoon, early Thursday evening. So you may be listening to this anytime on Friday, Saturday morning again. But within the course of when I wrote these numbers down on Thursday morning, and when we had this conversation that's being recorded right now, it moved from Alabama minus 105 to Alabama even money, and Michigan minus 120 from minus 115, to minus 120. So that indicates a little bit of a Thursday move back to Michigan. We'll see. Again, this thing's going to move so much. I shouldn't say so much in that it's going to fluctuate a lot. There won't be great variance, I don't think. I think by the time this thing kicks off, we're still talking somewhere around a 1 to 2 point spread, and money lines being somewhere no greater than 120 in either direction. Mm-hmm. But it feels, John, like we're going to be like one of the, those little baby roller coasters when you take the kids when they're to Kiddieland and they just go kind of easily go up and down, up and down, up and down. And it's like you're riding over speed bumps. That's what I feel like the line movement on this thing is going to do. It's just going to be little bumps up and down until we get to New Year's Day.
Yeah, and look, I understand. Michigan has not seen a team like Alabama, but you have to give them credit. I mean, they've been pretty dominant, and so I understand why some sharp money will come in on Michigan. Some people may say, well, this Alabama team, nearly lost against Auburn. It took a miracle against Auburn, and that was a more defensive oriented group, but I just don't. I feel like we kind of saw, what Michigan looks like against an SEC team in the playoff 2 years ago against Georgia, and wasn't that like $1 million to 3? It was just it was a beatdown, and so I just think it's the difference in athleticism and talent, that I think Michigan struggles with when they get to these spots. I mean, TCU last year sort of, we saw what happened to TCU when they got in the championship game against an SEC team. They got absolutely, pummeled, bludgeoned. So I always ride with the SEC in these spots. And, I'll check who won the championship 14 of the last 17 years, but I tend to be right when I do stick with the SEC. So I'm going to keep doing that until they give me a reason not to.
And think about it real quick, right? Look at last year. Ohio State was able to keep up with Georgia. All right. As far as I could tell, in the last dozen or so years, that's really the only team, basically outside the Deep South that was able to keep up with an SEC team. What did they have? They have the rookie of the year in the NFL this year, and C.J. Stroud, who could be Superman. All right, he could be Vince Young, right? He was able to do that at the college level. That's what it took. And Michigan doesn't have that. They don't have that. Man, we are getting the gap between like everybody else, and then because I threw Clemson in. I'll throw Clemson in there because Clemson's able to beat them. And they've done pretty well, or at least they were. The gap between schools outside the Deep South and everywhere else, man, it's just tough. It really is. It's tough to compete.
All right, let's pivot to the late game on New Year's Day, the other half of the college football playoff. Sugar Bowl, 8:45 Eastern kick in New Orleans. Washington getting 4 points. They are the higher-ranked team. They're the second-ranked team in the country, and once again, they are dogs going into an elimination game against the number 3 Texas Longhorns, who, again, are favored by 4. Total sits at 64.5. And money line, Texas, anywhere from, right around minus 185. Washington, right around plus 150 as we sit here today having this conversation. My problem with Texas here in this spot, and Texas may be the better overall team. I don't know if Penix, when healthy, isn't the better quarterback. As good as Quinn Ewers is, as amazing as he played in the Big 12 championship game, I don't know if Texas, we talk about comps, right? Who have you seen like the team you're about to play at any point in this season? And the only time Texas played a team this year that was anywhere remotely close to resembling what Washington can do offensively when it's healthy was when they played maybe Oklahoma, right? Maybe Oklahoma. Maybe that's somewhat of a watered down comparison. And Oklahoma beat them 34-30 in what was Dylan Gabriel's best game of the season. It wasn't the prettiest, but it was his best game of the season. It was his most complete game of the season because he did it with his legs when he had to, as well as with his arm. And so I like Washington in the points in this one. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to come down to the final possession. But I think I like Washington. I'm not all in on the money line yet, John, but I like, if you're giving me Washington and more than a field goal, I'm in on the Huskies.
Yeah, it just did open at 4.5. That's been taken out, and it's been steady at 4. I mean, we obviously still have a month to go, so we'll see what this number does. It may get back up to 4.5. It may not. When RJ decides to bet it, he'll probably move the market back in favor of Texas. But I will say this about Texas: I don't really feel like I know them. I know what they did against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and we've already established how great that win was and how much that win meant. But they lose to Oklahoma, in the rivalry there, and kind of play around with Kansas State, and the Big 12 was not very good this year. Besides Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma State was, that was a fraud. I mean, whatever they were. I mean, they sucked the first 4 weeks of the season, lost to South Alabama. So I feel like I haven't really seen Texas have to do that much, the last, 2 months of the season. And, with that being said, I can only really look at Washington in this game. I do think it's, it's 64.5. Love that. I mean, this is going to be a freaking ridiculously high scoring game. Yeah. But I think given the schedules, I would have to take the 4 with the Huskies here. Because I just haven't seen Texas be pushed by a team like this, in months, quite frankly. So I don't know if the Huskies win, but I would certainly take those 4 points in my pocket.
Washington is a better version of Oklahoma. I think that's a good comp you made there, Chris. And I like Michael Penix. I think the thing with Washington is they've got NFL guys at a lot of the right positions. Penix he's gonna play in the NFL. They got a couple of receivers that that'll play in the NFL. They got a left tackle that'll play in the NFL. They got a running back that'll play in the NFL. They've got some good players there. I think though the depth that Texas has is probably a little bit better. And Penix, I think, is a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers, but Penix is just like always going to roll out there with a 7 to 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 kind of game. Quinn could throw out a 4, and he can also throw out a 10. Like if he plays the way he did against Oklahoma State, I mean, Washington don't have a chance. But again, like what is the chance that he plays like that? I took Texas to the 4. I just believe in their depth and their athletes a little bit better. But I think the play is you either bet the Texas -4 or you take Washington money line because you're gonna get your juice back there. I think that's the play. If I was gonna go on that side, I wouldn't take the Washington 4. I would just take Washington win outright.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this one. As John mentioned, we're still weeks away from it. So we'll update you, obviously, on how we feel about it as things progress. And obviously, we want to talk about the rest of the bowl games as well. We'll do that next with some final thoughts on the Heisman Trophy before it's awarded this weekend as well. We'll touch on college hoops. But are there any bowl games out there that we like, that we perhaps want to take a look at, or maybe check on the opt-outs, see who's playing, who's not playing? Cotton Bowl, Peach Bowl, perhaps the Orange Bowl. All of that on the way alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack. You're locked in to BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Hope you're enjoying the weekend. It's the first weekend without a full slate of college football since, August. And we talked Army-Navy. We talked college football semifinals. Let's talk about some of the bowl games real quick, boys, that we might be excited to watch, or at least think we might have an angle on for bets, or any reason at all. Like, I know everybody is calling it the Snub Bowl, and everybody thinks it's going to get boycotted by the Seminoles. I think Georgia-Florida State has a really interesting angle on it, if only because if you're Georgia, well, heck, every game you've played over the last 2 years has been enormous, right? You've been you've been defending this undefeated streak now for how long? And all of a sudden the air is let out of the balloon and you've got to play a meaningless bowl game. The opt-outs have begun. You're not going to see the big-time, big-name players. Florida State, though, comes in, and I'm sure there will be opt-outs on the Florida State side, too, but Florida State comes in just, quite frankly, pissed off, wanting to kick everybody. You know, Mike Norvell wants to prove, I would think, that he should have been in the playoff. He's going to go to his tombstone with that, or he's going to go to his grave putting that on the tombstone, and he wants to show that they belong with the big boys. Georgia laying 2 touchdowns in this, and who knows where it'll move before kickoff on December 30th. But I love Florida State plus 2 touchdowns in the Orange Bowl, Choppy.
You know, I know the committee doesn't love that. The committee is hoping against that. They want Georgia to cover that game by quite a bit. This is an impossible game to figure out, though, because of the quarterback situation. I think 2 touchdowns is probably quite a bit to give up. But, I mean, and you know, you also have to figure this out. And this is one of the problem with the bowl games is you just don't know who's playing. You know, and there's going to be so many opt-outs. And what are bowl games about? And bowl games used to be a good barometer or bragging rights of, oh, we're the best conference. I don't think that plays anymore. The moment it stopped having a bowl alliance, the moment the BCS was gone, the moment it was a playoff, these bowl games became increasingly meaningless to the point where, you know, it's about like what you don't even know what team is going to show up. You just have no idea what team is even going to show up, and that's a problem. That's probably the bowl games you got to figure out, and it may actually get even worse with the 12-team playoff. Maybe it gets better. I don't see how it could, but that's a big problem they've got.
No, I mean, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I know we're going to do a bowl preview show, but it's like, I mean, how the hell are we going to do that? You know, like, I mean, realistically, yeah, I mean, we're going to be sitting here breaking down teams and rosters who we don't even know who's playing. Hopefully, by the time we do it, we will. But like today, for example, I mean, I'm looking at first of all, I think most of the matchups aren't very good. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, there are not a ton of bowls where I'm like, oh man, you know, this matchup on pay. Like Oregon's playing Liberty. You know, I mean, they're going to beat the snot out of Liberty if they care. You know, I mean, there's just not a ton of, you know, I mean, Kansas, UNLV, I'm looking at Kansas as a 12.5-point favorite. You know, I mean, most of these are just, you know, decisive spreads here. I do think if everybody plays, and again, that's a big if, you know, Penn State, Ole Miss is kind of interesting to me. You know, because it's a clash of styles, you know, and it looks to me based on this number that most people expected to not opt out and most to play. So, you know, but I think you're really dealing with some slim pickings here, man, in terms of, you know, what we can expect today. Like, I have no interest in Iowa, Tennessee. I mean, that's like a torture, you know, thing to show people. You know, Joe Milton versus the Iowa defense. Good grief. So yeah, I think it's a difficult thing today to look out and say, oh, well, because we have no clue whether or not the starting QB is going to transfer or opt out or whatever. It's just difficult.
Yeah, I do agree that Penn State Ole Miss game has potential. I know Chop Robinson has already opted out for Penn State on the defensive side of the ball, but if Jackson Dart sticks around to play in that game, which I would think he does, like that, you're right. That game's got a ton of potential to be the highest level of talent, but also most entertaining bowl of the season outside of the semifinals.
You know, I like the I agree with that one. I also like the Missouri game, Missouri Ohio State. You know, I think it was
Ohio State It isn't even look like the same
Really
team.
playing a quarterback.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I think if you can get on Missouri now, I already got them at -1. It's already up to -2. I think you can get on Missouri now. You might have something. I'll tell you another game. The Sun Bowl might be sneaky good. It's Oregon State and Notre Dame. And that's a hell of a get for the Sun Bowl. That's a really good get for the Sun Bowl. But Oregon State, there is like this us against the world mentality going on right now. They just lost their head coach. They just lost this massive recruit. DJ Uiagalelei is in the transfer portal. Notre Dame's like an 8.5-point favorite. Man, this could be one of those like rise up against all for Oregon State kind of games.
Isn't DJU older than all of us? How has he got another transfer? How's he got another year left? My man, he's been okay. I mean, hey,
COVID, right?
You do you. I guess, yeah. You do
right.
you and keep playing as long as you can keep playing. Quick final thoughts on the Heisman Trophy. Jaden Daniels, the prohibitive favorite at this point, -1400. Michael Penix Jr. 9-1. Bo Nix 22-1. We talked about this last week, guys. I thought Bo Nix would have remained the favorite had Oregon beaten Washington. Penix only would have become the favorite had they won because he went off. Neither of those two things happened. And so you get kind of the default, which is we're back to Jaden Daniels, who was the favorite a couple of weeks ago before the Pac-12 championship game, John.
Yeah, I'm glad Bo Nix lost in a way because that never felt anything but obligatory in terms of giving him the Heisman Trophy. I mean, Jaden Daniels was the most spectacular player in all of college football, no questions asked. I mean, accounted for 50 pounds. I mean, what are we talking about here? Yeah. Stacks up better than most Heisman Trophy winners of the last decade. I mean, and you're talking about, some of the best players to ever play college football: Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Joe Milton. I mean, you're talking about some of the best that ever wore the uniform. So, I would definitely say that I'm glad he did go down because I think that cleared the way for the most deserving player. I mean, I'm not going to hold that defense's performance against him. I don't think that would be right. He accounted for 50 touchdowns for his team this year. And for me, that's enough to get it done.
Yeah, oh God, I hate this.
Hey Tor alert.
I hate this, man. Like 13 of those touchdowns came against like Grambling and Army. It's like, yes, I hate giving the Heisman Trophy to somebody by default.
That would have been Bo Nix. That would have been Bo Nix had he won.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Bo was tremendous this year, and so was Penix. I don't know that that's the case. I think you're giving it to Jaden Daniels by default.
No, see, I think Jaden Daniels to me is the reason LSU didn't lose any more than 3 games. Oregon can still win double-digit games this year, I think, without Bo Nix because of the infrastructure around him. So I don't know. Look, the video game numbers
what
that
if
Nix
Oregon
put up
had Jaden Daniels? They'd be in the playoff right now.
They'd still be there. And LSU with Bo Nix is probably still a 3-loss team, right?
They're in the Sun Bowl. They're in RJ Sun Bowl. That's where they're at.
Let's hang on a second. Let's not act like LSU isn't always one of the most talented dang teams in the nation. Every ranked opponent he went up to, he got boat raced except for one. I don't know, man. I just feel like this.
I mean, he was slicing Alabama before he got hurt. I mean, in Tuscaloosa, that was impressive. I mean, you just gotta stop. You gotta be such a hater. I mean, you gotta resign your position from the haters tribune.
I am Mr. SEC. All right, look at this. I got a Tennessee helmet right here. I got Mr. SEC.
I got some haterade here for you, RJ. Take a sip. You ready? Take a sip of the haterade.
I don't root for anybody north of the Red River in anything. Okay, and I just would feel really, really dirty. A 3-loss team, you beat one ranked opponent all year, and I'm supposed to believe you're the best player in the country. I don't know. I got to give it to Michael Penix, man. I got to give it to Penix.
All right, we're
Don't
gonna
let RJ speak at the ceremony.
real quick as we wrap things up here. I'm going to ask you for a double-barreled question, each of you. I want to see. Give me an initial takeaway, or who you think the best team in college hoops is right now, and then give me your best bet for the weekend. On top of that, Choppy, go ahead, get us started. A quick thought on college hoops, or who the best team is right now, and your best bet for this weekend.
I'll tell you this. I mean, it's hard not to go with Arizona. I mean, they have really dominated, but also give me Houston. Houston's been tremendous over the last couple of years. They got a lot of talent on that team. They're a well-coached squad. So I'll take Houston as the best. And my best bet for the weekend, I'm going to do the NFL. I'm going to have to go to the National Football League, and this is what you call a scheduled loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys are coming off of 10 days off, and the team's playing the week. If you play a division road game the week after you play San Francisco, you are 0-7 since 2020. Cowboys -3.5.
Ooh, you just made a lot of sense, and that scares me. John, quick college hoops thought, or who the best team is in the land right now, and then your best bet for the weekend.
Yeah, I would say the takeaway for me early on is not who the best is, but who has sort of removed themselves from the national championship contender race. And for me, that answer is Duke. I hate this team. I think they are just mid. They're soft. They're not very tough. Mark Mitchell has made 1 3-pointer this year. I don't take them seriously whatsoever as a national. I mean, they were number 2 in the preseason AP poll, or maybe even number 1. I can't remember. They were 1 or 2, and they're certainly not even close to that for me. So I would say the takeaway for me has been Duke is just very unserious as a national championship contender. And I'd say the best bet for me this weekend is Cleveland -3. Jacksonville obviously coming off that brutal loss to Cincinnati, and also lost Trevor Lawrence. He's not going to go this week, and even C.J. Beathard is banged up. So I think Cleveland with that defense, even though it's probably going to be Joe Flacco in there under center, I think they're going to find a way to win this game comfortably with that defense against the Jags, who are going to put themselves in a position, perhaps, we'll see, to miss the playoffs. So give me the Browns -3 this weekend at home.
My initial college basketball takeaway, and I think the team that will end up proving itself the best in the country once again, couples with my best bet for, I guess, the future. We'll check back around on it in early April. But UConn, 14-1. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and say we get the first back-to-back champs in college basketball in 17 years. Ooh. UConn at 14-1 right now. Putting some money on it as we speak.
I like them.
Yep, they look great so far. That is going to do it for this week's edition of BetQLU. We'll be back next week, every Thursday night on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel, Friday nights and Saturday mornings live coast to coast on the BetQL network, and always available as a podcast inside your Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. For John Martin and RJ Choppy, for producer Zach and video producer Dan, I'm Chris Mack, and this has been BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.